Hello and welcome to BCM325 Future Cultures. In this video, I'm going to talk about the challenge for the digital artifacts for 2023. The theme for the digital artifacts this year in this subject is decarbonisation. I'm going to focus on the methodology for how to approach this topic rather than provide details about decarbonisation and the technologies and sciences and the approaches to that. I'll talk more about that in the next video leading up to the pitch. And I want to explain the kind of general overview, the broader picture. I'm still unsure about the relationship between the box of my head in the screen and how that's framed. I'll put this slide presentation up on the Moodle as well. If you could give me some feedback in the chat or in the YouTube comments about how you would prefer. Would you just prefer a voiceover to this style of video, or do you want to see my big fat head in the screen? All right, let's talk about digital artifacts for 2023. Okay, we're talking about digital artifacts in the Digital and Social Media major in the Bachelor of Communication and Media at the University of Wollongong. At the 300 level, the expectation for the digital artifacts is much higher than at the 200 and 100 level. The DA should not be based on any one platform alone. It should be a media project across multiple media platforms. So, generally speaking, if you haven't done a DA before, a DA or a digital artifact is a project. It's a 10-week project through which you acquire skills and you demonstrate your ability to communicate digitally and create media that address real-world issues and problems. And that's why we're focusing on decarbonisation in this subject. A DA is a project that you are going to be working on weekly over the semester. You're going to be drawing on your understanding of subject materials. You're going to be building an audience, and you're going to be creating media, engaging in research, and iterating and expanding on your ideas and your approach over the course of the session. The DA should be publicly available from day one. You should start creating content, you should start making posts, you should start getting feedback and working in public. There's no point in holding anything back. In the philosophy of the digital and social media major is that we work in public in real time. There's none of this, waiting till something's perfect and putting it out there. Nothing is perfect. The key thing to remember is that I won't be assessing the DA directly. Rather, we're assessing your report on your learning at the end of session. So just put drafts out there, put ideas out there, put stuff out there and see what responses and see what audiences you attract and see what kind of communication you get back. A DA is to be updated consistently. That's something that we look at in the final. You're putting your work in a constant state of revision and improvement through feedback. A DA is never finished. But a DA should have meaning, right? It should have utility and it should have stakeholders outside of the subject. There are 3 parts to the DA learning assessment in BCM325. The first is the pitch during week 3, and I'll be following up this video with a specific video on how to put together your pitch. Then in week 4, you will be looking at 3 pitches. You'll be assigned those pitches. You'll be providing comments and peer review on those pitches, and then you'll be analysing your own engagement in that process. So we're less interested in what you say in your peer feedback, but rather what you learn from the process of engaging in peer review. And then finally, in week 13, you'll submit your links to your DA, and we'll be assessing the contextual report. And there'll be a video on that one as well. Okay, so what is decarbonisation? Decarbonisation is the future of the clean economy. It is the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from the environment. You're going to be using digital media and communication technologies to research and communicate practical ways to cut greenhouse gas emissions. And I'm not necessarily talking about the individual. I want you to be targeting organizations, institutions, governments, corporations. I want you to think big when it comes to decarbonisation. Yes, there's lots that we can do in the individual sphere and the domestic sphere, but really we need to take big steps and have big discussions about global, national, and local impact. So you're going to be over the next 10 weeks, from week 3 onwards, contributing direct action through media and communication technologies that ensures we hold to the global average temperature increase of 2 degrees Celsius by 2050. And that means net zero carbon emissions. Okay, so let's talk about the methodology for the digital artifact in BCM325. A methodology is a system of methods, but it's also the philosophy and the ideology or the thinking behind the use of those methods. So the methodology for the DA in BCM325 Future Cultures is 1, research, 2, analysis, 3, action, and 4, reporting. Let's go through those. The first step for your digital artifact is research. The aim is to do more than just simply point to cutting-edge technologies or developments. I'm much less interested in technologies than I am in policies, direct action at the local government, the national government, the federal government, international regulations that will actively reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So you will be actively researching and engaging in practical ways to cut GGEs. So the focus should not be on future tech, right? The focus should be on available tech today. Stuff like carbon sequestration, right? Grabbing carbon out of the air and shoving it into the ground is really science fiction. It's not a practical solution that will get us to net zero by 2050. We want to concentrate on gathering and sharing evidence that direct action is proven to reduce GGEs, greenhouse gas emissions. For example, you might demonstrate how methods for shifting to renewable energy sources can improve GGE reduction in a chosen field, an industry, such as sport, online gaming, fashion, or transport. For example, you could look at recent initiatives around Australia for introducing e-buses, right, electric buses, and the reduction of carbon emissions and the savings to local governments and local municipalities. Your digital artifact, for example, could target your local council and could be a campaign to inform, increase awareness, gain support for the introduction of e-buses. We're not really interested in actually, the number of people that you get on site. That's not important. What's important is, in this instance, your research, the evidence that you're drawing on to make your case. That is crucial. What is the validity? What is the depth? What is the extent of the research that you can draw on to make your case? Analysis. This is the second step. Once you've done your research, and remember, you can go through these steps in multiple iterations. It's not a linear process. You might do a little bit of research and then do a little bit of analysis and then realize, no, actually, you need more research. And so you go back to step one. And then you go through the cycle again. So you can definitely adapt a previous digital artifact or create a new project that addresses this focus. Your analysis should focus on how best to apply your evidence for direct action in new ways. For example, you might have a DA that is a Bookstagram or an Etsy project. In that case, you could investigate the carbon costs of global distribution chains or contact leading publishers to find out their plans for reducing GGEs and evaluate their implementation, and then signal boost those plans, or criticize and comment on those publishers that don't have plans to reduce the carbon costs. For example, local printing. If we reduce our dependency on printing in China, for example, and invest in local printing presses and distribution chains in Australia, we can cut a huge amount of GGEs. We don't have to give up on material goods. We just have to produce and distribute them with net zero carbon emissions. Taking action. This is the third step and the most important in the digital artifact. Each week, you should be engaging in direct action that leads to decarbonisation. We'll talk more in the seminars about what direct action you're taking and what it means, but communication and media is a viable and legitimate mode of engaging in direct action. Talking to people, convincing people, challenging people's ideas. One of the things that we're trying to achieve here is getting us closer to net zero by 2050. That's our goal. And you can do that by challenging people's ideas about the reliability of electric vehicles, for example, or the need to reduce carbon emissions. So you're going to be involved in content creation via multiple online platforms to share your research and your analysis in new and interesting ways to communicate directly to an audience. For example, you might engage in a weekly campaign to promote attention to a business that is switching to renewable energy sources in your local area. We'll talk more about that in the pitch video for how you plan that out. Remember, in this subject, the use of AI tools like ChatGPT and Midjourney are heavily encouraged. Although, as I said in the last video, remember that you have to acknowledge that the tools are being used, you need to fact check your information, and you need to avoid generating content in a specific style of an artist or an author. Don't imitate directly. Appropriate, not imitate. And if you're unsure about any of that, message me on Discord or email and we can have a chat. Okay, reporting. Reporting is the kind of hard-edge phase of this process. In week 3, you'll pitch your DA, and please take a look at the subject outline for the requirements of that. But as I said, there will be a video. In week 13, you'll provide a contextual report that will be up to 1,500 words via a blog post. Now, that blog post will include original audio-visual components. In fact, every blog post in BCM325 requires some degree of you creating original audio-visual material. We'll talk more about that as the time comes, but just remember that blog posts at 300 level in BCM325 always have some kind of original audio-visual component that you have to create as part of that. You'll be reporting on your research, your analysis, your action, and your content creation that's involved in the DA. The DA will be directly discussing your focus and your approach to the challenge of decarbonisation, your methodology, as well as your overall trajectory. Remember that DAs sometimes don't work out. You can change direction. You'll have to go through the research, the analysis, the content creation cycles again, but you can decide halfway through that, no, this isn't working, and go off in a new direction. And so your report will be maybe talking about 2 DAs or 3, depending on how successful and how much you experiment. And experimentation is highly recommended. The contextual report should evaluate the project's successes and its limitations and thinking about how you might improve in future. As I said, sometimes things don't go to plan, and you may drop your DA and take a new approach, or you might be experimenting with expanding one DA and you don't like that, and so you put that aside and you start again. Make sure to document your process, your thinking about how you map this out. You are encouraged to collaborate. Absolutely. There is no limitation on the number of people that can collaborate in a DA in BCM325. An individual, 2 people, 3 people, 4, I don't mind. However, you have to demonstrate your independent contribution to that collaboration. And so your contextual report must discuss the DA from your own perspective and map your own research and your own analysis. You have to contribute an entire amount of a person's workload to the project. I will be running I will be running a DA and supervising a DA myself, and I'll talk more about that in a pitch, in the pitch video. So if you are completely lost, you don't have any ideas, you're not sure what to do, I have a DA that you can work on and we can collaborate on together. And that will be an interesting one that will focus on decarbonising UOW. So stay tuned for more of that. Just a quick reminder that it really is important to look at the assessment criteria. Even if you're just looking to pass, and perhaps even especially if you're just looking to pass, right? Make sure that you understand what it is that's required, that you are meeting the core elements of the assessment criteria so that you can ensure that you will pass. So we're looking for, even if you are looking to pass, we're looking for a sophisticated approach in addressing the DA, right? A 300 level approach. Development of real-world solutions through iteration and evidence of weekly activity, right? So this is not something that you can leave to the last minute. You have to demonstrate that you are capable of working on a media project weekly. This is a core element of this task. Then, if you're looking at distinction and high distinction, you should be plugging in not only background research, but engagement with the subject materials. This is where you demonstrate your learning, right? And this is where you provide contextual depth and evidence of background research. We're looking for coherency of expression and the professionalism of your presentation, right? We're not assessing the aesthetics. I'm not looking at your edits. Sometimes the quality of my video is not great. That's not what we're looking at, but that you are presenting yourself in a professional manner with a clear and coherent message. And then number 5 is just simply that you've covered all the bases of the task. We'll talk more about this as we come to the end, but every assessment in BCM325 has a cover page. They're available in the folder at the top of the Moodle page. That also has the assessment criteria in it as well, so you can double check there. All right. Remember, the future is now. The future is yours. I cannot wait to see what you come up with this session. And as I said before, if you have any questions, please message me on Discord and we can arrange a time to chat. Whether if you just want to make sure that you just want to get through, or you're looking for a distinction or a high distinction or a credit, I'm happy to help you calibrate your approach to the subject via Discord.